King James errors and my good Mormon Bible.
¿No se traducen exactamente igual las palabras de otro idioma?
What? Let's start with section 1 of the CES letter, the Book of Mormon.
What's interesting about this is that in the first edition of the CES letter, the 2013 edition...
Oh, you mean the sincere letter that Runnels wrote by himself, totally not ripped off of random ex-Mormons on the internet?
Yeah, that one!
Hi, it's apologist White Pete here. You were expecting an apostate, weren't you? Anyways, today we're actually going to be railing the apostates in a straight way. Not like gay at all, okay? Basically, as you can see from Brother Kwaku's solid logic, other people have used the same argument. Therefore, it means the argument is invalid. Checkmate, atheists.
In the 2013 edition, Jeremy linked a Wikipedia page citing errors of translation. However, that page itself updated to say that the Book of Mormon has translational variations of the 1769 King James Version of the Bible. Variations and errors are not the same thing. To save face, Runnels then changed the link to a different source.
This can be restated as, his original source was updated to more accurately represent the substantive material. Therefore, the author changed his source to reflect his argument honestly. And I'm going to do a sip of my water for using an ad hominem.
He linked an essay by Stan Larson, but Stan never mentioned the verses Jeremy included in his graphic. I kid you not. Runnels panicked and just attached a random critical piece against the church that mentioned translation.
Okay, the critical piece that was against the church wasn't supposed to be related to the graphic because you're misinterpreting what that source was supposed to establish. The source establishes two things. One, that there are mistranslations in the King James Version of the Bible and the Book of Mormon, which has yet to be disputed by the Fairmormon kids. And two, that there are more accurate versions of the Bible based on older texts like the Sinaitic Syriac. This is a straw man because he's blatantly misrepresenting a crucial premise of Jeremy's argument. So I take a drink.
Finally, in the 2017 version of the CES letter, Runnels linked to a chart he made on his own website. It took him 3 tries to prove his source by scholarship, and he ultimately settled on quoting himself with a sloppy JPEG on his own site. He literally quoted himself to prove himself.
Only 2 people in the world do that, Jeremy Runnels and Kanye West.
So does the book...
He does not quote himself. That is a blatant lie they're hoping that you don't catch. He transforms the data into a graph, yes, but he explicitly cites a paper by David P. Wright, a professor at Brandeis, as well as a website which cites the verses in the RSV and NIV translations that he's referencing in the graphic. The RSV and NIV translations are almost universally accepted by scholars to be better translations than the 1769 version of the King James Bible. All of these back up his graph and his argument. Here's another drink for a straw man.
Book of Mormon contain errors from the 1769 King James Version of the Bible? Well, in his first chart, Runnels states that Nephi's quoting of Isaiah is wrong because the 1769 Bible is wrong. In its wording saying, and the mean man boweth down, when it should be, and the mean man boweth not down. Since the Book of Mormon is inspired, it should have no doubt corrected the error, right?
Well, Jeremy just assumes that this is an error. In reality, Jewish, Protestant, and Catholic translations of Isaiah use somewhat of the same wording of boweth down or bow down. They are translating from a number of different manuscripts, not just the Septuagint, which the CES letter cites. So either Jeremy Runnels is wrong, or all of the academic scholars who have translated the Old Testament and found this to be a suitable translation are wrong. The context of the verse is speaking about bowing down to idols. If the mean man boweth not down to idols, he's bowing down to God. If he is not bowing down to God, then he's bowing down to idols. Neither is actually incorrect. It just depends on which frame you're taking. But Runnels doesn't try to explain this nuance. He just tries to hit the church hard.
I like to fight, too!
In fact, this chart lists...
Alex Jones is stupid. Therefore, you're stupid. Checkmate, atheists. It's actually the Fairmormon kids who completely fail to explain the nuance of this verse. For reference, mean in this context means humble. The context of this verse, reading from verse 8, is explicitly talking about idols, as they say when they put up the cute picture with the word idols. However, in just 1 second, they switch their belief from it's talking about idols to, oh, we don't really know. Whether or not it's talking about idols or gods, it's still legitimate. However, the most dishonest part of this clip is when a few seconds before that, they flash up the verses from different translations by scholars. They don't even try to mention that the verses they put in their video change the context completely by removing the words great and mean. To put it simply, the incorrect King James Version / Book of Mormon version that they're trying to defend explicitly says that great and humble men bow down to idols, which is a blatant mistranslation. In contrast, the CES letter actually agrees with the sources that Fairmormon provides and omits the part where great and humble men bow down to idols.
Lists a number of errors or mistakes that aren't verified by other academic sources. His only source is that he is quoting himself.
Again, that's a lie.
The evangelicals even disagree with him here. Baptists are usually not quick to defend Mormons.
Baptists hate us more than the University of Utah hates athletic integrity.
Another problem is that the CES letter fails to recognize how translation works. Let's go to Mimi and Ermolai to break it down.
Hi everyone, my name is Mimi Bascom.
And my name Ermolai. I'm a Russian boy who speaks German to English.
So let's talk about translation. Scott Gordon laid it out beautifully. If I wanted to say I want to go for a walk, I would say I want to go for a walk. But if I needed to say that in German, it would be...
Ich möchte spazieren gehen.
The word möchte with 2 dots over it doesn't exist in English. The closest word would be want or would like, which is 2 words. So if that German is translated back to English, it would say, I want walk go, and that doesn't make sense. It could also say, I would like walk go, but that's still nonsense. So to sensibly translate that German to English, the 4-word German sentence must turn into an 8-word English sentence.
I would like to go for a walk.
That is correct, Ermolai. And to make the translation make sense, you must add in the other words. The translators of the Bible understood this. And naturally, because Nephi in the Book of Mormon spends a few chapters quoting Isaiah, these extra biblical words appear as well.
Okay, they put in this mind-numbingly long monologue about translation as a complete red herring. The issue is that these translation errors are so incorrect that I would like to go for a walk becomes I want to go fishing. These aren't minor inconsistencies in verbiage. These are major translational errors that would mean Nephi wasn't quoting Isaiah's original meaning at all. Also, small nitpick, that song about 1970s collectivism was the modern Russian national anthem, not the Soviet anthem. That's just Fairmormon keeping up its track of accurate historical research. Drink for the straw man.
It's interesting that the CES letter manipulates the reader by assuming these necessary additional words count as errors. They don't. The Book of Mormon is a translation. It is allowed to use the method of translation.
It goes on to ask this.
Folks, I thought about how this would make the Book of Mormon somehow inauthentic. Remember, the filler words have to be different or completely missing for the Book of Mormon to be true.
Both
Is that Nephi wouldn't know which words to italicize unless he was collaborating with an 18th century Englishman. Kwaku pretends to ignore this and just skips the entire contention. Man, Kwaku must be fun at parties. Oh wait, except when you go to Kwaku's super spreader parties, people die. Not so fun. Sorry, sip for my own personal ad hominem. But I saw the opportunity and I had to take it.
Both the Book of Mormon and Bible say, nevertheless, the dimness shall not be such as was in her vexation.
Brad, both of those paragraphs use the word shall, be, and was. Obviously, those aren't normal words. The fact that both claim to be translation and use those words where they make sense is total evidence that Joseph Smith was a lying con man and Utah is stupid.
Here you can see Farmer Fair construct and dismantle a ridiculous zany straw man in real time. Fairmormon. As long as you don't have the PDF of the original document up next to our video, then you can't tell we're lying.
The CES letter goes on to say this.
The Book of Mormon includes mistranslated biblical passages that were later changed in Joseph Smith's translation of the Bible. These Book of Mormon verses should match the inspired JST version instead of the incorrect KJV version that Joseph Smith later fixed.
I don't want to sound like a jerk here.
I mean, yeah, you do.
It appears
The CES letter is wrong about Book of Mormon translation. How are you going to come back from that, Fairmormon?
the CES letter is deliberately withholding the truth and altering the facts.
And a free drink for calling the document a lie.
Jeremy Runnels compares Matthew 6:25 through 27 with 3 Nephi 13:25 through 27. If the Book of Mormon is correct and Joseph Smith was fixing biblical mistakes, theoretically they would match. The resurrected Christ sermon at the temple is almost the exact same as his Near Eastern Sermon on the Mount.
Here is the graphic from the letter, and we can see how these two verses are the same, and they shouldn't be.
Wait, Brad, do you see those ellipses?
Oh yeah, those 3 dots. Usually that means there's words missing,
Of
right?
course there are words missing. Runnels is about as honest as I am Chinese. Hint, hint, I'm not Chinese. So not only is the verse in the CES letter not complete, it goes on to make a very embarrassing mistake. It appears that the Bible version of Matthew 6:25 and 3 Nephi 13:25 are the same. The CES letter cites the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible, Matthew 6:25, and we see that they are different.
Here's what the antis don't understand. The Book of Mormon was translated without verse numbering. That came after. If you compare the Book of Mormon to the Joseph Smith translation of Matthew verse by verse, you'll see that the two verses are different. Not because one is true and the other isn't, it's because they're different verses. The CES letter just assumes that because the verse numbers both have 25, then it must be referencing the same thing. And that is what we call stupid.
You're exactly right, Brad. In fact, the Joseph Smith translation doesn't change the verse at all. Just go down 2 verses, and you'll see Joseph Smith translation, Matthew 6:28, saying the exact same thing as 3 Nephi 13:25 and Matthew 6:25.
The CES letter doesn't even know how to criticize the scriptures. Either the author hasn't read the scriptures, or he is being purposely misleading. He's literally quoting the wrong verse.
He looked at the verse numbers and went, hey, look, same number, different words. You must be fake. You want a PDF?
Mickey Mouse, the true author of the CES letter.
Ooh, congratulations, you're correct. Almost. Yes, the text in the KJV and the Book of Mormon are in the Joseph Smith translation further down. However, the part of the Joseph Smith translation, verses 25 through 27, cited in the CES letter, are not present in any form in either the Book of Mormon or King James Version. This means that the Joseph Smith translation verses cited, referencing the same words from the same Sermon on the Mount, failed to make it into the all-perfect Book of Mormon. Although this should have been stated clearer on Jeremy's part, this is pure, hopefully unintentional, misdirection on the part of the Fairmormon kids. But hold on. How could Jeremy possibly get this wrong unless he was trying to deceive you with his satanic tricks? I wouldn't know. I'm at a loss for words. It's not as if the official church website is the one that directs you to compare the Joseph Smith translation verses with the ones that Jeremy cites. So, let's recap what the Fairmormon squad did in this video. They attacked Jeremy's sources on point 1 without, and feel free to scour the video to search for this, actually saying that the Book of Mormon doesn't have the same translation errors in as the KJV Bible, which they can't say because even they would know that's a lie. They ignored point 2 completely and threw in a weak straw man, and then they failed to do their due diligence in researching point 3, while assuming Runnels was just stupid or malicious. I feel like the ending of this video, where Kwaku does a Mickey Mouse voice to mock Jeremy, perfectly sums it all up. Fairmormon doesn't care about confronting the facts honestly. All they care about is mocking critics of the megacorporation they're funded by.